If you've read much science fiction, you've probably read stories where a person is reaching the end of their life and they transfer their mind into a computer, and they continue to live on within the computer. I don't know that that's ever going to be practical, but I do have to wonder what would happen if we could generate another mind. You know, we can replace limbs now. You can transplant an eye, you can transplant a liver, you can put on a prosthetic arm. Eventually we might be able to grow arms and replace those. I wonder if we could ever do that with a brain. And if we did, and if we could get the synapses connected exactly the same way, all the evidence we have so far would indicate that you could actually transfer your consciousness to that new brain. You could do a brain transplant and have a new brain and continue on. So the brain contains who we are. All those synapses contain our personality, everything that makes up who we are. If we could do that, would that new brain, containing the exact same information as the old brain, would replacing that brain mean that we died or that we continued on? Would we be the same person, or would we be a new person? What would happen to the soul? Would the soul depart with the old brain? Is the soul attached to the brain or to life? Would we get a new soul? Would we not have a soul? You know, it seems like the whole concept of the soul has become obsolete. The idea of the soul dates back to dualistic philosophy. The idea that, you know, we have this body, but what makes us who we are is this spirit force, this life essence. And that's why people talk about thinking from their heart. Well, we know that thoughts don't originate from the heart, and they don't originate from the soul. They originate from the brain. So if we don't need a soul to think, it seems like the idea is unnecessary for God as well. Let's say we are simply who we are without a soul, and there is a God. That doesn't really pose any problems. One of the great theories about why we have this life in terms of theism is that this is a way for us it's almost like an incubation chamber, this life. We become a being that can communicate with God, and that can a being that can love God and appreciate Him. And so that then when we die, God has, you know, true companions who chose to be with Him. Well, you know, that's all well and good. But couldn't God do the same thing? If you look at the writings of Paul, he clearly believed in a spiritual body, which was completely separate from our physical body. So God, being all-powerful, even without a soul, couldn't He simply transfer our consciousness to this spirit body that we're supposed to get at the time of death? Why is there a soul required for this? It doesn't seem like it is. All the evidence is against there being a soul. So even if you believe in God, and even if you have this communion with God, there's still no reason to hold on to the soul concept. You can say that the Bible talks about the soul, but at the same time the Bible talks about slavery, and I hear that justified as, well, you know, that was just how people thought at that time. Well, the way people thought at that time is they believed in dualism. They believed that the soul was the personality, and we don't believe that anymore. Most of us don't. Science doesn't support it. So if we can throw out the idea that slavery is okay, we should be able to throw out the idea that there's this that we have this dualistic nature, and it's not necessary for God. But if we can come around to this, it has some pretty profound implications. You know, the Catholic Church ruled recently that limbo doesn't exist, and that babies just go to heaven, their souls go to heaven. Well, that seems unnecessary. You know, if God wants a relationship, He can't have a relationship with something that never went through the incubation process. Wouldn't it make more sense that when people die who have not attained a certain level of personhood, that God simply doesn't transfer them into their spirit body. The same would be true of aborted fetuses. If we don't have a soul, then maybe all that matters is that we attain personhood. And if we don't attain personhood, then perhaps God just doesn't transfer us into our spirit body. It solves a lot of problems. It gets rid of all of the arithmetic of souls that I believe Sam Harris talked about. When you have identical twins divide in the womb and then recombine into a chimera. If there is no soul, then all those problems go away. The problems with stem cell research, the ethical problems there, they go away. It's not a person yet. The only reason to hold out on that stuff is the belief in the soul, which has no scientific basis and has no need. There's no need for that from even a theistic standpoint. So maybe it's time, even those who remain within faith, maybe it's time to walk away from this anachronistic idea of a soul. I mean, it's archaic.